just because we had some changes, so.
Okay. Introduce yourself.
Ashley Brinkhurst with D6 Treatment. So originally, Carrie and I wanted to come and talk to you a little bit about the contract hours that I wasn't utilizing all the hours that were requested, and so the plan was for me to come and just be able to hire another contract, like be able to bring on another contract person to meet the hours that I needed to fill the gap until we hire somebody. Unfortunately, one of the contract people that I had brought on isn't able to do the services that I needed to until May, and so Carrie just wanted me to let you, update you that I've lost one of the contract people and just be able to have permission that if somebody comes available that I can go ahead and hire that contract person in that place to be able to meet the capacity of the hours that I need. So just letting you know kind of where I'm at with my employees, and that I continue not to have any applicants for the positions at D6 Treatment.
Okay. So you're talking about hours, but I'm worried about monies at the end of it. So you have the funds that we've still identified. We're not asking for any new funds.
No, I've worked with Christy, and Christy and I and Carrie sat down last week, and I still have the amount of money that's for those hours. I just wasn't meeting them. I brought on one person, and he was only using about 3 hours a week, and I had asked for 15, and so just being able to bring somebody on to meet that total hours that I needed. So I'm not asking for any more money or anything like that, just.
Okay.
So,
I have no problem with that. I mean,
so I just don't want to have to come back every time.
No, we okayed the hours,
Okay.
and if the hours meet the funds, I'm good.
And
If
I'll
the
work
funds get out of line, then I want to know about it.
Absolutely, and I'll work with Christy about that. I think Christy and I are on the same page with making sure we meet those hours, so. Just want to make sure. I just don't want to come back every time I have changes. As long as I meet the hours and I have the money, you're good.
No, we're good with that.
Okay.
We're good with that.
All right. Thank you very
All
much for your
right,
time.
thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
There's nobody here. Thank you, Brian.
Got fuel cost, yeah. Well, Shanda, come on up.
Good morning, Commissioners. Shanda Crystal, Purchasing and Economic Analyst. I have 2 items before the board today. The first is a recommendation to award the noxious weed chemical semi-formal bid that was put out. As we issued this semi-formal bid, we did have 2 responses. Though there is something on both responses that I want to talk with the board about today. Each company that responded to the bid, both in their own way, had a clause that said they would not guarantee product availability, nor would they guarantee product prices outside of. We did structure this one just a little different. There was an immediate need that we needed 5 different chemicals right now. And then initially, we wanted to ask for a price sheet for the remainder of the season that then, as needed, depending on what weeds popped up in the spring, we'd be able to order as we work through our stock that we have already in place. And then depending on what pops up, we'd be able to be responsive to the needs as they arose. However, right, when they sent back, both of them did respond back. They do have a solid price for us for the 5 chemicals that we asked for. But then for the price sheet for the remainder of the year, that's where that statement came in that said that we're not going to guarantee that we can get you these items, nor are we going to guarantee this price. So that being said, there's a couple different things that I'd like to do a little different with this one. One is I would recommend and ask that the board approve and award the bid for the 5 chemicals. After reviewing and looking it over, Wilbur Ellis is the lowest bid on there. And I would recommend that we award those 5 chemicals to Wilbur Ellis. I would also ask that moving forward in a very uncertain future, we would like to do a couple things. In talking with Kathy Delpy at the weed department, she is, right, again, willing to wait and see what pops up. to understand what their needs going to be and see if we're going to be able to use the stock that we already have or if we're going to need new chemicals. And whether that is next month or in, 8 weeks, that's uncertain for her analysis to be able to be complete. However, when there is a need that presents us, if there is a need that presents itself throughout the remainder of this fiscal year, we would like to ask that we do ask for quotes from both of these companies that have submitted bids. Ask for a current price. Are you able to get the item today, right? Can it be delivered in a week or two, right? Give them some deadlines of, right, that now we're ready. We're ready to order this new chemical. Can you deliver it? Do you have access to it? And what would your price be? As they submitted those back, it would then be reviewed again. If prices for whatever reason went so astronomically high, there would be a discussion if there is a different route. Can we do it with a different chemical? Can we do it with a combination of a few different things? How close are we to the end of the season? There would be a discussion within their department of the best course of action to move forward. And then to make an order to, if we chose that, no, that this chemical is, critical to this, we've got to have it, then we'd do it to the lower bid who can be responsive to our needs. There were some that even each company would say that they're not bidding certain chemicals. There were some chemicals that a company would replace with another one. Some of those are easily swapped out. Other ones are a different concentration and would do, work differently. So some of them we are willing to accept, some of them we aren't. But with so many unknowns moving forward and the need to be very responsive, these items could, in a conversation that a chemical company had a pallet of this, well, they no longer have that pallet today. So to be able to be responsive, we would ask that the board approve us to be able to request those quotes from these two companies as they have been responded to the bid at the time of need with deadlines attached. If they're able to fill our need, then we would go with the lower bid of the whatever product that is we did.
My only question on that is, what's the total budget for chemicals for the year?
So I did just double check with auditing. It's $190,000 for the year.
Okay.
This first initial 5 is going to be just short of $20,000.
The other part of this, as far as I'm concerned, is if we can speed up the process so that when that time does come and you can move as quickly as possible, if we make this change that she's accepting today, does that give you the flexibility to move quickly?
Yes, it would. Giving that permission from the board, we would be able to request that bid immediately upon the need being identified. We would give them a deadline of when to respond and when they would have to deliver the item. And then we could just, as those came back to us, they would look and review and say, great, this is the lower price, and we'd be able to act immediately.
And I'd actually take that a step further. I'd just say that we accept the bid for the 5. We go ahead and get that. As Kathy looks at her chemicals and comes, you've already asked for bids. So call them and say, okay, do you have this and what's your price? Because like you say, if you wait 2 days for a paper to come back or something else, it may not be there. I'd just soon, if Kathy clarifies it and they say, this is what I have and I'm the cheapest one, we've already asked for bids, so
And I would agree with her.
move forward with it.
Okay. Be able to act in a call and get a verbal quote over the phone. If they have the item right, touch base with the other company, right? Make sure whoever's low bid and get it done that day.
And we'll just leave that in Kathy's hands, in my opinion.
I would agree.
Okay. Okay, if that is the decision of the board, I did prepare letters in awarding, and these are again just slightly different than normally, that we are awarding the 5 chemicals, and then I've added an additional paragraph that tells them also how we're going to go through the rest of the year. That we will ask for a quote, right, and we will award it to lowest bid on each individual item.
Okay.
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 So we need a motion to approve the award. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So Wilbur Ellis. Okay. Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the awarding of Wilbur Ellis the award for the 5 products as specified, and approve the procurement process going forward as discussed. So asking for 2 bids, taking the quickest one and moving. Is that appropriate? Okay.
Have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, passes unanimously.
Thank you. The other item I have before the board is an update. That is slightly behind the curve for an update. Since we didn't meet last week, some of these items have already been before the board on Tuesday. So some of what you see in front of you is out of date. The first being that traffic paint. I have it that is requested to be piggybacked off of ITD and is before the board. That came before, thank you, the board on Tuesday, and has been approved, since approved. So the next is that noxious weed chemical bid that we were recommended awarding today and just got completed. I have a fabulous update on the architecture services for the museum roof. Those have been completed 2 weeks earlier than scheduled, which is fantastic. Those are out to our employees in the county to double check that right T's are crossed, I's are dotted to make sure they're complete. As soon as I hear back from the last employee, I anticipate issuing the addendum to the historical museum roof on Friday. So that's great. That will get that one kicked back into gear. That addendum will also have new due dates as far as documentation. And I want to look and review with Daniel Kendall, Special Projects, just to make sure we give them enough time to respond. But they have been aware of the project for a while now. So that should be able to be a shorter deadline and be able to move forward on that project. So I'm excited about that. I talked briefly with Scott about the seasonal concessions. He is working on getting a contract completed with the GO agency in regards to that, and we'll have it back before the board for review and approval on that. And the administrative water line project out at the jail is now complete, and the final invoice was submitted to be processed yesterday. So that'll come back before the board as well. There's a couple different things that I want to work out as this is a new process. We have the first project that has been reported back as complete, the flooring project, and that financial wrap-up we wanted to do. So I have final numbers on that, and we'll be able to talk about that next time and let you know right if it met expectations or if we need to adjust it just a little bit. But other than that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to.
Nope, I love it.
Good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Just real quick, housekeeping one, ratification of the application.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the signature for the grant adjustment notice as presented and previously ratified.
We have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 You've already signed that? So
Yep,
good.
thanks. All right, Scott.
Thank you. Scott Crowther, Business Events Director, Business Manager. We've got a couple contracts and a couple of fee waivers to go over today, and so I'll just move through these as quickly as possible. Doug and Travis, both of you want to welcome, or whomever, you got a whole group. So if you don't mind just introducing yourselves for the record.
I am Doug Hofster. I am the manager of the Bob Conley meet.
I'm Mark Van Orden. I'm the head cross-country coach at Highland High School.
Travis Bell, athletic director at Highland High School.
Travis Judy with the Western States Buckabull Association.
Okay, Travis, I'll get to you in just one second.
Okay. There's two Travis.
Yeah. Okay, so this is for the Bob Conley Invitational, which we've held, it's for a couple of years now, right? Mm-hmm. For the event center, and so they're requesting to hold that again. It runs across the kind of the perimeter of the complex and the championship field, and they're requesting that fees be waived for that event.
It seemed like last year there was lawnmower marks and we was gonna mow them out or something.
There were they do come and they mow a little bit of a path, but I think we're okay with that.
So this year's not going to happen. So I go out a couple of days before and I mow our trail for the 5,000 meter course, and apparently our left hand and right hand were talking to each other. So I was mowing it, and they were going, "What's going on here?" And then they were trying to
Who's putting this in
mow
our
over it. And I think the sheriff was after me too, or something.
Still is.
So,
And I have no problem with this. I still have a little bit of a problem charging people for parking. And I realize that you're trying to compensate, but that's still a public entity that we're giving away for this activity. And that still bothers me somewhat. So explain to me a little bit.
So the reason that to run the meet, just for awards, it costs us $3,000. And then we have to pay for porta potties, we have to pay for a timing system, we have to pay for all the officials to run the meet. So altogether, it costs us about $4,000 to help us cover those costs. We do charge a small fee to the schools to come. That helps a little bit with that. But if we did not charge parking, we'd still be in the hole probably $2,000 to $3,000 as far as paying for the event. And so trying to keep the fees for the schools down, that's why we charge for the parking.
Yeah. And typically at any other event, it's $6 a person, and we charge $5 a carload. So if 5 people come in, I mean, they're paying $1 a person, but, so yeah, it's mainly to cover those other costs, I guess.
And obviously, we check it there to make sure if they're using the wellness complex for anything else, we obviously don't charge them for that. And we try, when we designed the course, we tried to make it so it was least inhibited on people who want to use the wellness complex. So we tried to keep where they go fishing in the reservoir and that. We tried to keep that clear. So we tried to do our best to limit that as far as people being charged.
And I understand that. Like I say, just in the back of my mind, that's a public facility that we're allowing you to use for free.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're charging people to come and utilize it. We had some people in here looking at a car show, but they're paying full cost of using the fields, and they're gonna charge $2 a person. And so, as I weigh things out and stuff, it just... Any thoughts?
No, I understand the concern, but I also understand the tight budgets that the schools are under and providing that, so I'm okay. I understand the concern, but I feel like it's justified doing what we're doing, so. You're not charging entry fee to get in, and I understand you're charging the schools a little bit to participate, so I feel like it's a shared activity. So I'm okay with it.
Give me a motion then.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the Bob Connolly request as presented.
Okay. We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So there wasn't anything on here of what
because
fees were actually
Yeah.
giving
So they
away.
don't technically use like the fields, they use the perimeters. And so it's like when people use the running path, there's not necessarily a fee established for the use or the parking lot. So it's essentially just approving the event and the waiving of fees for them to come in and use as directed. So.
Also, in addition, so
So
we'd like to...
we're giving up $10,000 is what you're telling me.
$10,000.
I just wanted
Well, we do appreciate it. And in return, we want our kids to have buy-in on, hey, we're getting this for our team and for our meet. And so we have our kids, like when you have your cleanup day and what we can do to help around the wellness complex, we want the kids to do that. So we will encourage and require the kids to come and help with that. So we want to give back too, so that.
And the other thing is they've always asked us to take pictures, and it's all over our social media, Twitter, Facebook, so we appreciate it. And State Wrestling, just on a side note, thank you again for that, because that went off like without a hitch, and we appreciate that as well.
Great.
It was some good matches. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, since you're up here,
Okay.
we'll just move right into, this is the Western States Bucking Bull Association. So we have chatted with Travis, right, about holding a bucking bull event. And the actual event will be on August 6th, but there will be some setup and tear down. Some of the setup and tear down we've discussed will be done by the ISU rodeo team to try to help them with their with some of the potential shortfalls they have in their budget this year, and that will be at Mr. Udy's expense. What we will charge is we'll charge $1,000 for the use of the upper arena, and then we will run concessions and alcohol sales, and we will take the proceeds from those.
So this is the outside arena, right by
This
the
is
covered shoulder?
this is the upper arena, the grandstands.
The grandstands, okay.
So we'll, I mean, the event itself, in my opinion, sounds like a really cool event where we can draw a lot of people from the community. Like I said, there is some setup, but a lot of the setup will be done by the Bucking Bull Association with the help of the ISU students. So from our standpoint, it's flipping the track into an arena and then letting them go.
Does that $1,000 covers your?
It covers the setup and the rental for the grandstands essentially, and then where I think we're going to see benefit is through concession and alcohol sales.
Yeah, no, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
I think it's great. I like the partnership, so.
One other thing with this is we bring contractors in from anywhere from 8 to 10 different states. So they enter their bulls almost like a horse race. So at these bull riding events, the bull riders and the bulls compete for money.
So
Usually bring
horse
in
stalls
50.
and RV stuff will all come to us as well.
Okay.
Okay, have you been here before?
No,
Okay.
no, we've always had an event in August, and this year we had an opening, and I've got some ties up here. My wife works at the prison, and my son's on the college rodeo team, so I thought it'd be a great place to go.
Okay. I had a couple of questions here. Looking under the fees, on the bottom line, it says the fees include allowing other outside vendors access and use of the facility. That's in the $1,000, right?
Mhm.
And then in 8, when it talks about food trucks and stuff, the food truck vendors will be charged a fee of $250, which shall be paid to Bannock County. Is
So anybody
that subtracted out of the $1,000?
No.
Okay.
No. So
I
it's the
just-
$1,000 plus any food trucks or any additional vendors will still be subject to our current fee schedule.
Okay, that
Yeah.
was one clarification. And then the other one, what need do they have for spider boxes?
To be honest, I don't know that we're going to have a huge need for spider boxes because that's going to depend on the vendors that we have in that area. I don't anticipate a ton of need for spider boxes.
Well, that's under RV sites.
So the RV sites, the spider boxes, I think that's if we allow camping up in the internal or up in the infield. There's usually some spider boxes, but under the RV sites,
Yeah,
let me look at this.
RV sites 5A.
And most of these guys will stay at motels and stuff.
Yeah.
'cause they're
Well, and
stock
that's-
trailers.
We have the RV park, and I want to utilize the RV park. I don't want to have spider boxes on the responsibility for them out and about.
Yeah, so depending on the events, we do pull out those spider boxes. If we have the power grids up there, but we still spider them out to allow the vendors to separate out a little bit.
Okay.
And so we
Well,
have
it
them
was under
available.
RVs, and that's
Yeah.
what concerned me a little bit, is how
Yeah.
come we're not using our
We
two
probably-
RV parks
We probably would use
utilized
that.
first?
We probably need to just move that section to be on, or that area. The spider boxes would really impact people that are camping in the infield if we charge for camping in the infield. Because we will run power out there and then we can spider box off that to allow
Yeah.
people to
We're
use the
not
camping.
in the infield on this one.
Probably not. I mean, I can't say that we're not going to, but it would be a fee that we would offer at a regular fee schedule. So,
And then the other deal, and I thought about it, and we're gonna have a discussion here in a little bit, on these contracts, have you thought about the increased fuel cost? As we have a tractor and a
So we increased
skid steer.
We increased our fees last year, but we did not take into consideration the increase in the fuel cost for this year. I think some of these events we'll have to see what the impact is going to be to us on the fuel, but we have not increased fees for that because that's a fee schedule item.
Well, but this is contract, so
Sure.
it isn't a fee schedule.
Sure.
So I just, as we're talking about people utilizing our equipment, and we're paying for the fuel,
Yeah.
that's gone up.
It's my belief
Substantially.
that with the $1,000 and the concessions and alcohol sales, RV sales, that we will compensate for that stuff.
Okay. Thanks. All right, any questions?
Nope, I'm good. So, Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the contract for, trying to get the name right here, Western States Bucking Bull Association as presented.
We have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, welcome to Bannock County.
Glad to have you.
All right. We're going to jump into POWMIA if that's okay.
This, Travis, this one doesn't have your signature. Do you?
We can get his signature real quick.
As long as you're here, might as well have you sign it. Instead of searching for you.
How are you?
How's that?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. So this is for the POWMIA Awareness Association rally that is held up at the grandstands also. This is really a two-day rally. The rally is held on the 22nd, 23rd. We do have some setup and some tear down on the 21st and the 24th. They have a lot of vendors and people that come, and we have, in discussion with POWMIA, we have come up with a fee of $17.50 for the contract, which allows them use of the facility, and then also the vendors will be covered in that as well. That they will be able to have vendors that come. And so, the event is a great event for the area, and they bring in a lot of people. And the other aspects of it, like the RV park and those are all areas that we will receive the compensation. On this event, we have the ability to run concessions on this one. The alcohol sales on this one will go back to POWMIA minus whatever costs. So the alcohol sales they take the proceeds on the alcohol sales.
Okay, and that's one I have a concern about.
Okay.
I think that Bannock County should, because we went to the effort of getting the licenses and stuff for the alcohol, that we should be compensated some percentage.
Mm-hmm.
Given 100%, I just can't agree with that.
Okay. So some of the events that we've held up there historically have had, like, some of those aspects have just been part of what they've done. They've just paid the full fee. This is the first year that we actually made the grandstands a contract area. Before it was just a fee. So people would rent it, and then they would just use whatever services. They would, in the past, they would contract with a club to sell the alcohol, and they would take the proceeds from the alcohol minus the sales. And so as we move forward, I think my plan is to eventually build that in, but I didn't want to make a huge impact on people that weren't aware that that was changing for us this year. So that's the only reason is, for me it's a matter of let's get it in there, but maybe in the next year or two as we make people aware of the changes that we've made.
Well, I'm kind of like Ernie. I think we should charge a little bit, cost plus 3%, 5%, and then let them have the proceeds from the sales from there, because then they can adjust their price accordingly because we do have some costs associated with ordering, storing, all
Sure.
the stuff that's associated with that.
And the alcohol sales is after cost, right? So they take the proceeds, not the cost. So we would take whatever the cost is, and then they would take the proceeds. So, and part of this is, we have some logistics to figure out as far as the alcohol stuff, because this is the first year taking over the alcohol sales up there. So we do have some logistics we've got to figure out, and I can't tell you what that would be today, because we just haven't done it. I know that they usually provide all the labor and a lot of the stuff to actually do the alcohol sales.
You read my mind.
So I think for us, there's very minimal to zero cost, but
5%. Comes back to the county. They get 95%, we get 5.
okay,
Because you have to have somebody on site, don't you?
we do. But that's part of the cost too, right?
But we've gone to the effort of having that as our license now. Last year, the horse racers had it, and they got compensated. The county needs to be compensated, is what I'm saying.
I would agree.
And then the only other thing I had was in the equipment use. Says you're gonna use a water truck and an operator, and then down below it says that the Bannock County water truck and tractor will be operated. So are you using a tractor and the water truck?
So not the same as like we would use on a rodeo, but last year it gets dusty. So we took the water truck and we watered the track in
Yeah.
between events. So it wasn't, there's not a tractor or water truck on standby. They just call us and say, hey, we need a little bit of water.
Okay.
So we just wanted to throw it in there. It's not,
If you look at that though, the way
Yeah.
that reads,
Mhm.
it looks like that the only thing we're gonna provide is a water truck, and then down below we talk about a tractor.
Yeah.
So,
And then
just the verbiage.
in section 11, authorized personnel, that's talking about the water truck, authorized personnel only and permitted by the director. So are you talking about letting someone from the POW drive the water truck, or is it just going to be our people driving the water
so
truck?
typically it's just us, but they do have a member of Road and Bridge on their board.
Okay,
And so we talked about letting him drive it last year, but he didn't. I drove it. So I think it just is a matter of, depending on how busy the weekend is, it's a pretty crazy weekend that they're up there. But,
so just from a risk management perspective, Ryan, do we have to have a CDL to drive that water
Yeah.
truck?
so you have to have a CDL when you cross a road.
Right.
On our property, I don't think that you do. I think it's just that you have to have it if you cross the road. But we don't let people drive it that don't have CDLs. But it's just like any other piece of equipment that we have a waiver that people can use our equipment
Okay,
that has been approved by ICRIM.
okay, all right,
Pretty standard piece of equipment. But to be honest with you, I don't let people drive our water truck.
okay. Okay, that was the only question I had.
Okay. Any concerns, comments back?
No, just want to make sure that we can use your logo on our poster like we have been in the past to show that you supported us.
Yes.
And you'll probably have to take it back to your board for the 5% alcohol thing.
Yeah, I
Okay.
will.
So we'll have to have them take it back, and then once they agree upon it, then we'll bring it back and have the commission sign it, if that's okay.
So do you want a motion to approve it pending their signature? That way you don't have to come back and everything, we can just, once you come back and say the board approves, then we can sign it, or do we need to wait for that?
Yeah, I'm good with that.
You can approve how you wanted it. Now we'll see if they want to accept it.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the contract with POW MIA event with the change of a 5% fee charge on the alcohol sales.
We have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay?
Okay,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
Okay. We have anybody from Pocatello Chamber of Commerce? Great.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Or Matt?
Matt Hunter, President and CEO, Pocatello Chamber of Commerce, Pocatello Chevick Chamber of Commerce. Got an event coming up at the facility.
So this is a law enforcement appreciation barbecue. They would like to use, they're requesting to use Pavilion 2 and then the championship field. Do you want to just explain kind of what's going to happen there?
We've done this for a number of years. It's appreciation of all the law enforcement throughout our area, 6, 7 different agencies. We have a number of sponsors that provide all the funding for it. The main use of the championship field is to land the air rescue helicopter there. And we use it to set up, I'm not exactly sure how we're gonna use it this year, but we did like a carnival last summer for the kids, and it was kind of on the edge of that field. And so something similar to that would probably be on the edge of the champion field. Most of the seating, cooking is all done in the pavilion area for the guests, and we use the event to thank our law enforcement for the great work they do in our community.
Comments, questions?
Just thankful for the event, grateful to
It's a
support.
great event.
Support that.
So what do we do to land a helicopter? What's the safety precautions?
I don't know. They've always taken care of it. They have their own people out there on the ground guiding the helicopter in. That's a pretty big field, so there's not a lot of, they fly that thing in and out of very much tighter areas than that, and they do it on a regular basis. So I don't know if there's strong wind, which we have had out there, they don't come. And that's really the biggest problem. If we have, and we've had some wind issues out
And
there.
the reason I bring it up is last year we had other people that wanted to bring helicopters in.
Oh,
and do
really?
helicopter rides and different things.
Oh.
And I'm against doing that, and that's why I kind of want to know what our,
Yeah,
How
these
do we
guys
do
are
it? What do we
professionally
do?
trained to get in and out
You know?
of tight areas. I'm not sure I would rely on that with a tourist organization.
and that's,
Not that I don't support tourism very heavily do in our community. Might be a better place to land it.
We have not discussed necessarily the logistics of it, but we do have a lot of space up there that's pretty free of debris. And really, it's just a matter of having somebody ensure that space is open before the helicopter comes and lands.
Yeah, we had
Pretty low effort.
We had a problem one year where there was somebody actually using the field. They weren't supposed to be, they hadn't contract to use it, they just decided it was open and they were gonna use it.
well, that was graduation.
So we had to move them to
So you're
another-
too late on that one.
We had to move them to another field and then land the helicopter, so it was.
All I'd say with this is, when you're talking about that, I'd like something written up kind of that Scott approves so that
A plan.
if
I'm
other
sure we get
people
something like
come
that from
forward and want to
Osmo.
do the same
Yeah.
thing, that at least we're following the same plans and direction.
Yeah, great.
Right.
That's all.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the Law Enforcement Appreciation Barbecue Plan as presented.
Have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you very
Good.
much, gentlemen.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Hopefully you'll come out to the event.
Thank you.
I'll give you one of my cards and we can talk about the helicopter thing. Work with the hospital, the rescue folks up there.
Thanks, man.
All right, thank you.
All right, is Brock here? Brock Jensen? All right, the last contract is with Brock Jensen and Big Butte Mini Bulls. They've been using our facility, the indoor facility, for the last few months. They pay full fees. Because we're moving them up to the grandstands, that's now contract, but the fees would be the same. They want to use the event, or the area, March 25th and the 26th, and it would be $1,000 for the 2 days. The only contingency we have there is that if the weather is bad, we may move them to the covered barn, which is over by the horse stalls. We would not change the fees or reduce the fees because it would be more labor intensive for us to set up that area for them to use. So the fees would remain the same.
Okay, and this is $1,000, you
Yep,
say?
$1,000.
Because I didn't see that on
Yeah.
the paperwork at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's number 3, in line 3. Oh, on the contract. Go back one more. I show it.
I don't have the actual contract.
Oh.
This is, that's Western States.
Oh,
So we just, on this one right
No,
here,
no, he was looking
Yeah.
at the wrong contract.
on this one right here, we just did the application, the event application.
Okay.
But we could throw it into a contract. It's straightforward.
Okay, I just
It's
didn't see a
essentially the
fee
fees, yeah.
associated there. So,
yeah, okay, you're right. All right, Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we approve the mini bull riding request with the fee of $1,000 as discussed.
we have a motion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously. Then you had one more for a wedding?
No.
That one got taken off.
Oh, okay.
They have modified their plans, so we are going to, we'll see what they do.
Thank you.
That is all I've got. Thank you very much.
Good seeing y'all. Christie. Come on up.
Christy Davenport, Management Assistant. Just coming before you, I've spoken briefly with Christy Klauser about the budget for the Independence Day celebration. And it seems there are some things that we need to understand about it prior to moving ahead with planning. Just want to make sure that we're all on the same page.
So there's $100,000 for the budgeted for 4th of July, but that is contingent upon receiving $100,000 in revenue to fund the 4th of July. So we have budget authority, but we do not have cash. So
Okay. And,
we are waiting on some monies from some sponsorships and end of year concert from last year. That would help the cash flow so that we could float it. We've not received those dollars yet, so currently that fund is actually in the negative, awaiting those dollars. So we need to get some sponsorships going. If my recommendation would be if we only get 80,000, you only spend 80,000, unless you're willing to find monies elsewhere to.
well, I've been thinking a little bit about this, and as I've read about some of the ARPA funds that tourism that we've lost monies up at the event center and stuff. If we could earmark $100,000 towards this, and then as we get monies coming in, replace it.
Cash flow is not necessarily the problem. If you're going to have monies coming in, so if you would like to earmark that first 10 million of ARPA funds to pick up any shortfalls, we could do that. But I wouldn't want to move the money into that fund and then replace it. That's not very transparent, a little messy.
Okay. Well, I wasn't thinking of the first 10 million either. I was thinking because this would fall under the other 7 million, the clarification, because that was actually stated in there to replace tourism dollars. Then as we get the monies in, we could utilize that
We didn't see.
where we wanted to spend it.
We didn't see a loss of revenue necessarily.
Oh, well, we did.
It does state
We did?
tourism.
Because I haven't seen,
Well, when the high school rodeo left, that was a loss of dollars.
okay, but to do the calculation, there's a specific calculation that you need to do to recognize that loss.
Mhm.
So I think we would need to go through that before we make a formal commitment on that, just to make.
I'm not making any commitments. I'm just saying, and in this discussion, as I'm thinking outside the box of funds, we're gonna have a discussion later about ARPA funds, and so I've been thinking about them and how we utilize those monies.
I think this is one of those chicken and egg deals, and I think if we can earmark the funds, maybe not move them, but earmark them, that if we need them, they're there. That allows us to go forward and seek the reimbursement from sponsors and vendors and things like that. So at least we're moving the project forward with a defined amount.
So if I can just add a couple things to it. So from what I understand about the 4th of July, and I've only really been involved in it now for like a year up there at the event center, and then when we did not do the 4th of July event on the first year I was here. So we paid about $100,000 for the fireworks a couple of years ago. Last year we got last year we got a pretty good deal because of the 2020 deal. We got them cheaper for about $60,000. In my opinion, like the perfect world would be that we have a budget set aside at the beginning of the year, we set it aside when we do our budget, which will be something we hope we get done this year. And then we can start in December, January, trying to arrange for the show, which is going to happen in July, so we can get everything taken care of. We follow our purchasing procurement rules. We buy the show that we want, and then we find sponsors to then replace that money, and then we move forward year after year, kind of doing the same thing, so that there's not an impact to the county. There would be the impact to the county from December, January, when we bought the fireworks, until we actually recoup the sponsorship dollars. That would probably be the best way to do it. But I also feel like we don't know. Last year we had, with all the events that we did, we had a pretty minimal budget, but it was still, I don't know, maybe $15,000, $20,000. It seemed like we kept kind of bumping it up a little bit. So my suggestion would be to maybe go $150,000 for the event, and then try to just recoup that every year. But there could be a part of it that if we spent, $120,000 and we got $100,000 in sponsorship, that we end up running that $20,000 as the county. So where the funds come from, whether they're ARPA funds or whether they're funds that we try to roll over through events, is fine with me. I'm okay with that, but I think we need the process. Maybe we just set that up at the beginning of the year so we can start this process just a little bit sooner for the purchasing. Because this year we do not have the fireworks secured to this point, and I don't know what it's going to cost.
We cannot change the budget in there unless you reallocate dollars within existing.
Sure.
Or receive more than the 100,000.
Okay.
Because budget is set.
Yeah.
So we could do that for next year.
I'm definitely speaking for next year, but
this year, I think you only have a few things budgeted within that trust. We've got 100,000 for operating, 250 for concerts, and 10,000 for movies in the park. So you could, but again, all of those items are going to be contingent upon money coming in.
Sure.
We really didn't know I think we weren't 100% sure if we were going to do go out local maybe. So that 250 may not be needed. You could maybe reallocate that, but again, you're going to have to come up with cash to cover whatever you spent.
So what's the question?
Where's cash?
Where's the money coming from? I mean, if we're willing to say that we budgeted 100,000,
Well, worst case
that will be covered by donations.
Well, worst case scenario, we have 100,000 in ARPA funds that we can use however we want, so we can earmark that while we finalize the details of where it's officially coming from, and then we can work on sponsors. So I'm okay with that.
When we have our ARPA discussion, I'll try and do some research before that meeting at 2:30. I will have some reporting coming up in April. If we formally allocate money for ARPA, I may or may not have to report that. So I'll try and do some research on that before this afternoon.
Okay.
See if I'm going to have to report that as 100,000 possible, or if there's another way we can be creative on that.
Okay.
Because there's a couple other options for the 100,000. We have contingency. Hate to use that this early, but we have contingency. We may need contingency for fuel. But we also have a little bit of extra money in county operations, about $140,000 that might be available that we could use. So we could also say we're going to earmark that with the second option as ARPA. So that depending on reporting requirements.
Well, we're going to get into reporting anyway, because we're going to start spending some money. It's time.
We are. But again, those are just some options. So, I mean, those are three options that we could potentially use. And then what I'll do is we can finalize that possibly at 2:32.
So, as you go forward, look at $100,000 has been budgeted for this.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody for fuel costs, come on up.
Would you just?
I know, I just need to go and see. You guys take them down, go ahead.
Lead it off.
We're gathered here today. As we've had conversations with Kyle and Tyson about looking at the fuel budget, and now Scott, we've talked a little bit about that, and fuel prices are not going any lower for the remaining, or for the next 6 months, I'm pretty sure. And so our fuel budget is going to be stretched to the max. And so we need to at least begin the discussion of what do we do? So Tyson, you look like you've got a bunch of paperwork, so.
I don't know you all, so I just.
Why don't you just start talk about where we're at and where you're projecting to go?
So, and Christy might be able to help me here. I'm going to talk, we'll start with the rebill line item. So we buy all the fuel up front, and then every 2 months we rebill all the departments within the county. So when they're building the line items, they put the rebill money in. So as of right now, according to our side of it, the rebill line item is 89.2% spent.
That's not what my number says. I'm looking at it. I show 31%.
Do you have the last rebill in yet?
No, because it hasn't happened yet. But, so the rebill I'm not too concerned about, because rebill is money in, money out. So if you end up spending $500,000 and we budgeted 2, then we should have $500,000 in revenue. I can open the budget and cover that. So while it's somewhat of a concern, that one is fixable.
But isn't it covered by the other departments?
It is, but we need to look at what the other departments have budgeted.
Okay.
So,
because
hold on just one second.
that's
just
not gonna
'cause
be
I want to
100%
make sure
now.
I'm up to speed here. So the simple math, if our fuel budget is $1 million for the county as a whole, right? You guys go out and buy the $1 million worth of fuel, and then you charge each of the departments their share of that $1 million.
we also have monies that people spend at gas pumps too. So that's the basic concept, but yes.
Yeah, whenever they fill up it.
If they fill up with a card, we don't pay.
Right, so when we go to Boise, that $50, you charge us for that, or that goes into that $1 million fuel bill that we are estimating for the year. Okay, so the rebill then is, you guys go out and buy the $1 million worth of fuel, but you have not been reimbursed by the other departments for their share.
Not until every 2 months. So we rebill every 2 months.
And the fuel's coming in kind of like that too, so it's not that total fuel price all at once.
And we only go through August, the end of August, so that, and then September is carried over in the next year, every year.
Okay, so, again, forgive me while I'm trying to catch up. We're just kind of playing a shell game semantically with talking about rebill. Because if you guys, again, arbitrary $1 million, if you guys have spent, according to your figures, you've spent 89% of that $1 million so far this year. Am I understanding that correctly?
So our show, there's going to be 200,000 in rebill. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And there's been 178,350.
But they're ahead because, I'm pulling it up, they're ahead just simply because they've already entered that into their system, into their QuickBooks.
Right.
And it's not hit my account yet. So, but again, all the money that they're gonna get paid on the rebill.
We're
we
just
can
worried
open
on the other end. The rebuild
Right.
part doesn't worry us.
Yeah.
So we need to look at
We're
the
worried
departments.
about the other department out there that's gonna hit.
Yeah.
So
It's
that's-
not going to affect us. It's going to affect them.
It's
So
just
what-
money in, money out. It don't matter to us, but.
So what we need to look at is we need to look at the sheriff's fuel line, Road and Bridges fuel line, landfill's fuel line, Scott's fuel line, and see where we're at with all of those.
Okay.
So Road and Bridge right now is at 67% spent, according to my numbers. So yeah, they are gonna be in trouble.
But that number's gonna fluctuate too, because as rebuild money comes back into that line item, though, right?
Yeah.
So since we're ahead of her, we're at 20.7%.
So, and we should be.
Because that money came back, so it don't look like it was all ours.
So they pay for all of it in their 454.9, and then when we get the payback,
The
I go in
payback from
and
the
credit it.
sheriff's department.
That makes us
Then we
look,
credit it
Right,
back.
so your fuel comes down, sheriff's goes up.
Yeah.
So we look bad for a while, then they look bad. So it's just a,
But again, I just go from the county as a whole, because it's very simple that way.
And
So I think we could probably simplify this a little bit and just say,
Thank
what
you.
is the fuel cost increase, right? Did it go up 20%? I mean, like $1 a gallon? Did it go from $4 to $5 a gallon, or what's the fuel cost?
so the trends, I've got trends too here. So in Pocatello, this trend's diesel. From, well, that one's, let me look at McCammon. So like McCammon, we filled up in January, it was $3.49. We filled up last week, it was $4.33.
So if we're looking at roughly $1 a gallon increase in fuel, assuming that budgets were set off of that previous, that we're just gonna be short 20% on our fuel, or 25% on our fuel moving forward, if we use the same amount of fuel that we used last year, right? So.
And if you spent your entire budget.
And if we spend our entire budget. So on something like this, my experience is that you run until you run out of funds, and then you use whatever funds that we can to replace those funds, taking into account that you will try to do some fuel reduction precautions, right? Like things that we can try to do to save money on fuel. And then we evaluate it at the budget cycle next year to see if it needs to be adjusted permanently. But if this is a 6-month or an 8-month swing, you almost want to run through your budgets to see where we end up and then backfill, because it's going to fluctuate. I mean, it could go up by $2 a gallon. We have no idea what it's going to do. So at least in my experience, I think a prudent course of action would be obviously to monitor and then to encourage fuel reduction measures where possible, and then evaluate the next budget cycle.
How many bike units you got?
Well, we have 8 or 10, and just so you guys know, we've already started to implement some of these because of this issue. This isn't the first time we've been through this, and so some of the things that we're going to do is bike patrol is going to be huge. As it warms up, foot patrol is going to be a lot bit more. We're going to push that more in those cities where we've already increased those cities, the amount that we charge for contracting with those cities, and that's going to continue to go up for at least, I think, the next 3 years. But we're also going to do a lot more stationary radar, and then doubling up. We're kind of in a, for us, whether there's statistics to prove it or not, a patrol car sitting in an area deters crime. We believe that because, and I will explain to you that several times, they know when we're in lab. There's no misunderstanding when our patrol cars are there. They know when we're in McCammon, and so, but the problem that we have is, we're patrolling 1,100 square miles, and we may have one officer or two officers within, the closest is 40 miles or 25 miles, the next closest guy. So it becomes a safety issue for us. But what we've encouraged our guys to do is if there's 2 of you down there working in the lab area, we'll just park one car and then patrol if we need to. But we also want to do more stationary radar, because the more you drive, the more consumption you use. I know it's been because some of the stuff that we've run into is on the south end is the distance. You look at the distance from the cities. So we're going to try to push more when we get a call. If we're in Lava and we get a call in Downey, we're going to either try to take it by phone, or we're going to wait until we get over in Downey to take those calls instead of running back and forth. Now that's emergency calls. We're not going to have a choice, but we're already pushing that. We talk about it in our briefings every day about trying to them finding their own ways to do it. If I understand this huge document, we were almost the same as last year, if not 0.1. I think it's 1% less than what we were the same time last year. So the increase is definitely we're right on the same page as we were last year. The increase is the amount of money that's being charged for the fuel. Except there's only one problem: we're not even at our busy time. Right. Memorial Day starts and we go until generally Labor Day, and I don't know how that's gonna hold out. So.
Well, without receiving the last billing that all the departments are going to have to pay, I've got Road and Bridge, which we already talked about, is a little bit different. Sheriff's Office is at 37%, Event Center's at 28%, and Landfill's at 35%. 5 months into the year, we should be 42%. So, but again, you're not at your busy times yet.
No.
So that's going to throw a wrench in. I'd have to look at last year's, which I could real quick.
So
Look
I
at
have-
last year's to see what percent we were at.
And
So I don't have the percents. I have gallons historically for, I ran 3 years. So for diesel fuel, for a 3-year average, we are right at 75,000 gallons. Right now, we've bought 20,300. So if we go off historically, we have 55,000 gallons of fuel to buy. So that kind of gives you, we're only 5 months in. The next 6 months or 7 months, we're going to double what we've bought historically. And it's kind of looking at the gas, it's kind of the same way. So for unleaded right now, we bought 33,000 gallons, and historically through the same time frame. So I ran these reports multiple ways. I ran them fiscal year, and then I tried to compare start of fiscal year to today. And gotta find the right one. Hold on.
well, my purpose for this discussion today was just to make sure everybody's on the same page, that we're aware that we've got some potential issues coming, and just start thinking of ways like you guys are talking with the foot patrols and some stuff like that. So it's more of let's just raise the awareness and kind of see what potential impact would be. And I appreciate what you said, Scott, about let's run it through, because I don't think we can make any decisions today because the future is so uncertain.
There are a few things that we've looked at that I think, we've looked at moving a secured tractor location down closer to the arena, so we're not driving across the street 15 times, a day, it seems like. Reducing idle, just if you start your car and warm it up. Some vehicles, like some of the diesel tractors we have, you gotta warm them up for them to really run. But reducing that as much as possible. Those things, we'll see what the impact that has on our fuel cost. But I'm definitely trying to take some measures to reduce the footprint, like the sheriff's office, and I'm sure what you're doing also.
I had one more report that was pretty interesting to me. So last year, the same time frame, the county had drove 745,994 miles. This year, we've drove 611,791. So people are already being somewhat proactive. I don't know if it's straight fuel, if there's some COVID related. I don't know the exact scenario there. But with the mileage difference, the fuel cost last year, the same time frame, was $154,524, and to date is $262,931.
So we've driven less miles, but it's cost us more.
So last year, same fiscal time, it cost us 21 cents per mile, and right now it's 43 cents.
So between measures of saving that these guys are talking about And then also, if everybody will keep in contact with me, we might have some options where we could potentially open the budget if we need to cover some shortfalls. But it'll probably just be a balancing.
Well, like I was telling Kyle, I don't worry about road and bridge as much because we have a,
Well, that's, we were looking at it that way, but then one of the things that we had discussed was a lot of our money comes from that state money.
federal money.
So there's our biggest chunk of road and bridges budget, so it's hard to say, well, let's just not do this project and that one, because we're already need to spend that money. So it's hard to find the spots to save for the fuel and stay in our own
Talked to
budget.
Darrell this morning when he's come back from Boise. He said there's a lot of funds coming available for projects on road and bridges, roads and stuff
Yeah.
like that, that we'll end up.
Yeah, there's a lot of
getting
nice infrastructure monies coming down, but like I say, it doesn't help us on the fuel part.
But, and Scott, you kind of mentioned it, we changed our system a couple of years ago on how, on our fuel tanks. Are we secure on our facilities and fuel tanks so that, I mean, it may end up being a big deal. I mean, I saw-
Yeah, you
You actually, you have to have a key.
Yeah, so the
And you
event
have to have
center
a
never
password.
used to.
Yeah.
The fuel's not gonna walk away.
And the same down in McCammon
Yep.
and stuff.
All-
It's the
So
same
we're all,
system.
was just my question. I
All-
thought we'd corrected that problem and
Yep, all fuel sites are now.
and then
Well,
just
and they
where
can
we,
run, I mean, Tyson can run who got the fuel at what time. So, I mean, especially on our end, if we have to do an investigation, and that's what we're gonna do, we're gonna go straight to Tyson and say, hey, we need this time frame so we can see who was in there getting fuel. So,
Road and
That's what-
Bridges facility's always been pretty good. It was a couple different areas that were lacking.
I know there was used to be concerns up at the event center, and that's why I brought it up.
Well, the switch was just right here. Switch handle. No, everything is now a keyed system.
Maybe what we could do, again, I appreciate everybody coming in, just so we're aware, but Tyson, if it wouldn't be too big of a burden on you, would you mind running us just a monthly consumption report and projection, just say, this month, like the numbers you just gave us, which I thought was fantastic, so thank you for that, but just to let everybody in the room know where our consumption is at, so we can kind of monitor that, and again, not that we're gonna make a decision today, but just kind of watch.
Yeah.
You know the department that's consumption's up the most? Commissioners.
That's because we're working for you.
You took all the fleet cars. So you didn't.
You were working for the county.
It was just funny when I broke down some of the bigger departments and I was looking at it, I thought, man, they're sure driving a lot compared to them, but you guys went from having one car to now having, 7, I think, under your,
Yeah.
because of the pool cars.
Or it's Tubby. He isn't here, it's all him. But going to Boise every other week.
Can't use his travel budget in.
Yeah. It took all
Our
that away.
system's nice, their report's so big, I can't break down just department, because fuel gets charged out to unit, and then it's connected back to the department. That's the only reason
Well, just whatever kind of a simplified report you can create.
This one's easy.
Okay, if that
That's
doesn't
just-
cause you a lot of pain, just send out a monthly report just saying, here's our fuel consumption compared to whatever, some projections going forward, maybe some fuel cost projections, and just to keep us aware.
If you can include me on that, then I can help try and track the budget.
Yeah.
Well, that cost per gallon, I mean, that says a whole lot.
Well, that's like, when I was looking, so this is a new one the dossier's added, and I was looking at it, and when McCammon in a month and a half jumped to $1.33.
Yeah.
That $4.33 high is the highest number I've ever seen the county had to pay for fuel.
Well, and again, I want to stress, don't sacrifice safety for the officers and the county just because we're worried about fuel.
No, what we talked to him about is, you still got to do your job.
Yes.
We expect you to still do your job, and you don't worry about that. But if you do have downtime, that's when you shut the car off. If you have a couple of guys, you can go on foot patrol, then go on foot patrol. As soon as the weather breaks where we can start riding our bikes, we're going to push that. it's one of those things that we, we worry about our guys being by themselves, and there's hours in the day where we might have one patrolman south, and the closest guy is Pocatello. So, but again, we won't do that. And before we do that, I'm sure we'll come talk to you guys and say, hey, this is why we're at where we're at. So
We'll find some funds.
well, we're just gonna keep plugging along, but we're gonna do our part, and we're gonna stay in touch with Tyson and Kyle and just kind of make sure that we're doing our part, because we know that we consume a lot, but again, we have 1,100 square miles that we've got to patrol, and we don't know where these events are gonna happen. So
Well, I feel like we're being proactive at least, so if Tyson will do that, then that's fantastic.
Well, and some of these contracts that we have with people, we may end up putting another clause in there that per fuel cost, this may be a factor that we're gonna raise you like everybody raises us.
The problem
Slow
is
down
you can
and
read on,
this
you can read on as much as you want. And everyone's got a different theory on where we're headed.
Right.
Some think we're gonna stable, and some think we're still headed to the $6-7 a gallon. So
if you'd have told me McCann and Flying J would be $5.29 a gallon just for diesel, I would have said, you're crazy. But I just saw, I mean, it dropped a little bit. It's $5.19 today, and it's funny because when I look at it, I'm like, I never paid attention to this, but that's like a flashing light. I mean, but it's everywhere in Pocatello. When you go to the Maverick, it's the same thing.
Especially if you drive a diesel truck.
and it has
Park
been
mine.
we just bought fuel for the landfill and got it for $3.99, so 33 cents less than the Canon. But we do always get the 10,000 gallon tanks are always cheaper because it's a bigger bulk, so they give us a little better deal. But one thing Scott needs to budget moving forward is bigger tanks at his facility.
Yeah, that's the one thing.
Yeah, okay, that's it.
Well, just that we're trying to shovel your fuel at 500 gallons of whack. It's time consuming.
It is, definitely. But.
Okay, well, unless you have anything else.
Thank you. And thanks for all you do.
Thank you, guys.
Anything else from anybody? All right,